Thank you so much for joining me today. So today I'm going to make a meat sauce, but I'm going to be using the tomatoes from my garden this summer. I grew beefsteak and heirloom tomatoes, but we just couldn't eat them quick enough. There was just so many of them. So what I like to do is I like to wash them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and throw them in the freezer. So when I accumulate enough, I'll make a big pot of sauce with fresh tomatoes. It's just nothing like it. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I took all my tomatoes out of the freezer. Couldn't believe how many I had. And we're going to get started. I'm going to let them defrost. Because once they defrost, the skin comes right off. And it's just so much easier to work with. Now you can do this with fresh tomatoes, either from your garden or if there's a great sale at the supermarket. What you would do then is boil some water, put them in the water for a few minutes. You'll see the skin will crack, and then you take them out. And the skins will just peel right off of them, no problem. Okay, so for my meat sauce, I normally will cook the onions, garlic, and the ground beef first. And then I would add my canned sauce. But because I'm using fresh tomatoes today, what I do is I cook the meat separately. Now I'll cook the tomatoes separately. I'll let them reduce down, I'll let them break down to the consistency that I like. If you like them chunky, if you like them puree, you can put a hand mixer in there. I just like to get my hands in there while they're still cold and squish them up really fine to like a crushed tomato consistency. And then when they're boiling and cooking, and it's time to put them on a simmer and add our spices to it, then I'll add my ground beef to it. And that's how I get my meat sauce. So let's go ahead, go on over to the stove, and I'll show you how we do it. Okay, so the first thing I did was I took all my tomatoes out of the freezer, and you can see they are rock hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them rest on the counter and defrost, and then we'll get started making the sauce. Okay, so the tomatoes defrosted, and of course when they defrost they get very, very soft. So it's so easy to take the skin off of them. So that's the only thing I did to them, was I took the skins off. Okay, so now they're nice and defrosted. I have 2 small onions that I diced up and 3 cloves of garlic that I diced up. Okay, so I have the onions. They're cooking up nicely. So they're translucent. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my garlic. Let that cook for a few seconds. Now you can do this with fresh tomatoes. Just cut them up. If you want the skin off, you just plop them in some hot boiling water for a few minutes, take them out, and the skins will peel right off. But when you had, like me, have so many from the summer, just popping them in the freezer was great. Now I pull them out, and when they defrost, the skin just slides right off of them. Okay, so now let's get ready and we'll put the tomatoes in. Okay, and as you can see in this pot, I have 2 pounds of ground beef. I sauteed it with some garlic powder and oregano. That's it. Because, like I said, if this was fresh tomatoes from, say, a can, then I would do the ground beef in here with the onions. But because it's not from a can and it's fresh, especially these, which are frozen, I cooked it separately. Okay, so let's go ahead and carefully add our tomatoes in. Okay. So now right now they're still chunky, so it would be totally up to you what you would like to do with them. If you would like more of a smoother, less chunky, then just get a submergible blender or just chop them up in the pot. So, but when they start to cook down, they will fall apart. Okay, so we got that in. So now we're going to let this simmer for a few minutes and then we'll come back. All right, one thing I'd like to do to crush up the tomatoes better, and since it's pretty much still cold, because the tomatoes were still cold, I can actually put my hand in here and just squeeze all the whole tomatoes. And then you get it to the consistency that you want. Okay, so now we're going to let this cook for about 20 minutes. Bring it to a boil. Then we'll add all our spices and our meat to it. So now you can see that they're cooking very nicely. They've been breaking down. There's still a few big chunks in there, but they'll break down. You could just go in with the hand mixer, a submergible mixer, and just crush them up if you like. But they do break down on their own. And you could even crush them with the spoon. So what I like to add to this is we're going to need salt, about a tablespoon. I never measure. The only time I've been measuring is while I'm making these videos. But normally at home I don't measure. You just have to be careful with your salt. You don't want to overdo it. But whether you add a teaspoon or a tablespoon of, say, basil, you're not going to mess it up. That's the one great thing about cooking. It's what you like. All right, so I'm going to add some dry basil because I don't have fresh on hand. I'll add about 2 tablespoons. Okay, and I'm also going to do the same with the oregano, 2 tablespoons. Okay. Now to take the acidity out, especially since they're fresh tomatoes, about 2 tablespoons of sugar. And because we love garlic, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. All right, now let's just give that a nice mix. Now this is fine on its own, but I like to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay. Get that all incorporated. And now we're going to add our meat. So remember, this is 2 pounds of ground beef sauteed with some garlic powder and some oregano. Because I have everything in the pot already, the onions, the garlic. So I just wanted to season it a little bit while it was cooking. Okay, so now this is actually going to simmer on the stove. The longer, the better. I'll simmer it for about 2 hours. And by then the tomatoes would have broken down. can all grab them and just crush them on the side. All right, so we're gonna let this cook on a simmer for about 2 hours. And we'll cover it. I like to leave it halfway, this way the steam comes out, because I want it to thicken up a little bit. So you can even, I want it to get a little, bring it up to almost a boil again, because I put the meat in. Once it comes down, I'll put it at a simmer, and then you can leave the lid off so it gets thicker. But right now, until it comes up to a slight boil, I'll keep the lid on. Okay, let's check on it. Okay, so it's at a little bit of a boil. So now we're going to put it on a simmer. I'll bring it down to a number 2. Okay, so now we're going to let this simmer on the stove for about 1 hour to 2 hours. So now what I like to use with my meat sauce is a hearty pasta, something that can grab the sauce and the meat while you're eating it. Now fusilli is perfect. Now this is the tiny little ones. But while I was shopping, I found a bag of the same thing, but just big. So here's the normal one, and here's the one I found. They are just unbelievable the way how big they are. So you can compare the two, but this would be beautiful to hold the sauce. So this is it if you ever find it anywhere. This would be it. I mean, it is just really huge. So I'm going to give this is my first time trying these, so I'm going to give it a try with the meat sauce, because these little tiny things, I don't think are going to cut it. So let's get on over to the sauce. Okay, so I've been cooking it for about 1 hour now, and you can see it's getting nice rich color and it's thickening up. Alright, so the sauce has been cooking on simmer for 2 hours. I have my pasta already made. Just want to give this a mix. Shut the sauce off. Now, of course, the longer you cook it, the better it is. Thickened up nicely. So now we're just going to scoop some on. Little Parmesan cheese on top. And there you have it. Homemade meat sauce with tomatoes from the garden. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this recipe. And give it a try. Try to make some homemade sauce with fresh tomatoes. Tastes delicious. So I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.